I'm Travis Weaver, and you're listening to the Good People Project.
Shall we get rolling here, gang? Okay, I love it. Negative stories get headlines, but there are a ton of good and decent people stepping up to serve an elected office. The Good People Project tells the unsung story of those who wake up every day to do good and selfless work for the American people. New episodes out every Monday. Today's guests are two of the newest members of the General Assembly. In fact, one is so new, she hasn't even started yet. So, without any further ado, the wise and talented Regan Deering and Jason Bunting. Regan, I'd like to start with you because when I was preparing for this episode, I learned something about you. And I've known you for a couple of years, and I already liked you. But when I learned this fact, I loved you because I always tell the joke, how do you know somebody went to Duke? They'll tell you. And I've known Regan for 2 years, and she's never told me. So kudos to you, being the most humble Duker I've ever met.
I have to tell you a funny story back in that I have a pillow in my office, and it's stitched in, it's hard to be humble when you're from Duke. So
I retract my
full circle.
My comment.
It's not on my bed though, so I don't think of it often, but only because you brought up that story. But yes, I did, and I found myself there because I wanted to study marine biology.
Oh, really?
And they have a marine biology program and a campus at the coast in Beaufort, North Carolina.
Yeah, not a lot of marine biology in Illinois.
No.
River biology. Maybe
After I
that counts
graduated,
too.
I came back and worked at the Shed Aquarium.
Oh,
So
wow.
I got my fix.
Cool.
So, so you just went out there for that?
Duke?
Yeah.
Yes. And actually, when I started looking at schools, I actually graduated from high school in Greenwich, Connecticut. Spent my last 2 years there. My late father-in-law had several colleagues whose children went to Duke and just raved about it. So he said, well, you should put it on your list to go visit. You know, It's warm, sunny, it's kind of Southern, Midwestern, and I fell in love with it and applied early and got in.
And here you are, not even giving me crap about this Carolina Tar Heel I have on my quarter zip.
I try not to.
You're very kind.
Yeah, well, now that Coach K is retired, it's a little easier to be a Duke grad.
She won't even make eye contact with us. She's not even looking at it. So this means come January of 25, we are going to have a marine biologist as well.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, we got plenty of farmers, not a lot of marine biologists.
I know it. Yeah.
I went on to be an
Exciting.
educator, so I have a second degree in education too.
Good.
So I was a science teacher, but
Overachiever.
not a lot of money to be made at the Shed
Overachiever.
Aquarium.
So, Jason, around this table, you, in your illustrious career, are the second most tenured member of the General Assembly table.
Absolutely.
I've been there for almost 2 years. You've been there for just short of 2 years.
Yeah.
So given that Regan's going to be a new member, despite her humility that we've already discovered, what advice for you to have for her coming in?
So I would tell you, since I've been appointed February of 23, I would have told you back then, being new to this game, that the hardest part of the job was going to be away from home. 60 to 70 days out of the year. I have come to find out in 17 short months that the hardest part of the job is trying to balance being a father, being a farmer, and being a good representative for the 108,000 people in the 106 districts. So you are going to be drinking from a fire hose, but I promise you, if you have a question, there is a staff member on our side that will be more than happy to help you out. Don't be too prideful. Don't be afraid to ask for help. If the staff members can't get you there, then your colleagues will help you, lead you in the right direction, we hope.
That's great.
Anyhow.
Yeah,
I
and
got to watch some action because I was a page for a day.
Oh, that's right, with Dan.
Representative Calkins, yes.
Yeah.
And I watched a lot of that interaction happening.
Yeah.
Just people moving up and down from their rows to talk about a bill that was coming forth, or staff popping their head in. And so
It's
that's
amazing.
good to know.
And really, to your point about being a marine biologist, I mean, that's something that's kind of unique, is you don't have to be an expert in everything, but what you are an expert in, maybe it's only 2 or 3 things, that's your thing that you bring to the table. And, I'm on 7 committees, probably 6 or 7.
wow.
And like maybe 2 of them, I actually feel like I can really lead and provide value. And on the other ones, I feel like it's your job to listen, ask questions, and maybe in the future you can be sort of a resident expert. But those 1 or 2 areas where you are today, that's where you really gotta, I think, lead and step up.
And Travis, that's truly the beautiful part about our 40 members on our Republican caucus is we have people from all walks of life. We've got law enforcement officers, we've got insurance agents, we've got lawyers, we've got farmers. I mean, we've got the full facet of occupations in our area there, that if there's something that we have a question about, we can go to that person. We can get a little bit more familiarized with what we're voting on. It works out really good. I can't say that we can say that about the other side of the aisle, but I would say of our colleagues on the Republican side, there's always an expert in a field on something that we're voting on.
Awesome.
What would you say made you want to jump into this now that you're coming into your first term here in January? Has this been kind of a dream of yours for a while to be in a legislator? Or?
No. I always paid attention. I mean, always a voter, kind of always intrigued, always was interested in policy first and foremost. And actually, this is my second run as a candidate in just 2 short years. Actually 3, because I ran for my school board in between 2. I got a little rub for that from my primary opponent, that I ran for 3 offices in 2 years. But,
but dang it, she's passionate.
Yeah, well, if it's at the end of the day, it's like, if it's not me, who?
Yeah.
It's certainly not a glamorous job. Running for office,
especially
you do
school
lay
board.
yourself bare. And to your point about having a family, we had a lot of good conversations about what this was going to look like, and how we were kind of all in it together. So I had a wonderful support team, but really it's about my children's future. I mean, at the end of the day, I want them to stay in Illinois. We love it here. I laugh because traveling the district, I say I'm from Decatur, and I don't know, a good 2/3 of the time people are like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I'm like, "Don't be, we love it." I have 3 siblings in Decatur, parents, cousins, the whole kit and caboodle. We have just really enjoyed our time there. We've been back about 20 years. And so for me, it's about their future. I mean, I want them to live in a thriving state, have reasons to come back, find a great job, raise their families, feel safe and secure, and provide for them well. So that's really why I did it. I mean, I have had kind of a lived experience. I think I've talked a lot about how people making decisions I don't feel like they're always qualified to be doing that. I understand it's an elected office, which sometimes feels like a popularity contest. But, if we want to change things in our legislature, then we need to change the kind of people we send there. And I think to your point about the background of many of our Republican colleagues, that's what we're trying to do.
Sure.
People who have had that lived experience. I did ask a question earlier in our setting here at the Edgar Fellows about the budget.
Yeah.
Because I have owned my own business, and we do run our own homes, and it's no surprise when people say, you can't spend money you don't have. So that's really frustrating to me all the time. And I think I could do better.
Yeah.
So.
And I think the point about having your kids and wanting to have this a future for them, I think that's got to be top of the list for everybody. I don't have my own kids. I've got soon to be 5 nieces and nephews that are in Illinois, hopefully my own kids one day. And I love it here. And I want to live in a place where you can raise kids and they stay because they feel like they can have prosperity, because they feel like it's a place where there's a future for them. And, a lot of my friends, folks in my generation, don't echo that. And they say, I'm going to start a family. I'm going to go somewhere else. Because if we're going to set down roots, I want to set down roots where I trust the public school system. There's going to be economic opportunity for my kids as adults. I'm not going to be a parent who's in their 60s, 70s, 80s. All my kids live in Tennessee, Florida, and Texas because that's where they went for all the jobs. And I say, as much as I can, as Illinoisans, we got 2 choices. Option number 1, change states. Option number 2, change this state. If you're going to complain, you got 2 choices. And to the people that change states, I got no problem with that. It's a free country. You should go where you want. But I think if you're going to stay and complain, you got to stay and be part of the solution for sure.
Yeah.
It's a lot easy to moan and complain about what goes on in Springfield or in Washington, D.C. for that, or you can go and try and make a difference. And, in my setting, as a farmer and a small business owner, I mean, I'm a captured audience to what takes place in Springfield. So I can either, I'm going to cuss on here, I'm sorry, I can either bitch, moan, and complain about laws that are getting passed, or I can go down there and try and make a difference.
Yeah.
And, a father of 3 young children. I've got a soon-to-be senior, freshman, and 6th
We won't
grader.
let the young children, we'll bleep that part out for the kids,
Gotcha.
Jason.
I'm with you. And they've never heard it before, I'm sure.
Sure.
I'm sure they've never heard it before. But, there's a lot of people that like to play armchair quarterback.
Yeah.
And complain about what takes place. Well, you complain about it or do something about it. And I think that's what's exciting about serving as a state representative.
I think a balance to that too, which I hear from many constituents, is they're starting to lose hope. And that's what concerns me the most. I echo your sentiment, and I have said we will get in there and try our best. But when they're starting to lose hope and they feel like their only option is to move away, they can't afford to stay in their home, or, the taxes of any number of other things are just driving their living wage down. I understand, to your point earlier, you can't blame them, but I just think there's so many people that have lost hope that there has to be a turning point, and I really do hope we're part of the solution.
Yeah, I think people are seeing it. You don't right, left, indifferent. I mean, everybody knows that we have high taxes. Everybody knows a person on their street that's left to go somewhere else. And, we hear people, the governor say, we've had all these credit rating increases and I'm cutting tax. And we all you can lie to me a couple times and I might sort of buy the message. But at this point, I mean, we all know what the truth is. And it's no secret who's been running the state for my whole life. I mean, yeah, we had Rauner for a couple of years, but, let's be real. That was the Madigan administration that was really calling all the shots. And I do kind of see the tide turning a little bit, and it's cause for optimism. But I think that we also need to be intentional about capturing it. I think a lot of times Republicans are so independent-minded people that when we have great opportunities, there's not this team come together where everybody follows the leader, because we're all like, to hell with somebody else telling me how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it my way, and that's the way.
Absolutely.
And so I think we do have an opportunity coming up, but we got to be intentional about knowing whoever we're going to have at the top of the ticket to represent us. You're not going to agree with it 100% of the time, but if you can get 90 or 95, let's get out of our own dang way and pull in the same direction.
Absolutely. And I don't want to change topics here, but as we're sitting here at Edgar,
please, Jason, act like you host the podcast. Go for it.
I apologize, Travis, but just listening through Governor Edgar here the last few hours, and it really strengthens the fact that I truly believe that the 15 to 20% of extremists on both sides of these parties are ruining it for the 60 to 70% in the middle that are trying to make a difference, trying to reach across that aisle for the common good. I mean, what's good for the 106th district should be good for Cook County, should be good for the Collier counties. It's just we need to get that message out there and fight for the good things and the folks that are fighting for the state of Illinois. And the important part is working together to make good policy, to draft good policy. And we are the super minority here in the House and in the Senate bowls. So, we've got to reach across the aisle to work with them folks when we can.
Speaking of the top of the ticket, I've been wanting to ask you, Jason Bunting, from one JB to another, do you think we're going to have
we are not
him at the top of the ticket for 26? You think he'll be ditching us?
He'll be done.
I think so too.
If I were to look in the crystal ball, I truly believe, which I don't want to have happen, Donald Trump needs to win this election in November for the good of everybody. But if it does wind up being the other side, I see him probably going to D.C. to be a cabinet member somewhere.
Well, it's so funny how bad he's trying to become VP, and he comes out and says, well, I would hate to leave the governorship of Illinois, but Kamala Harris did call me. Yeah. And it's like, dude, so I like to look at the Vegas odds and these kind of things, because I think that's really a true take on what's the likelihood of something happening. It's not some pundit with an angle. It's really like a market. It's a betting market. And he's barely in the top 10. Yeah. And he's like, well, she did call me, and I am being considered. And I'd hate to leave Illinois, but I don't know. It's like, Ben Shapiro said, you guys probably haven't seen Mean Girls. Maybe your daughters have. But there's this thing that she's trying to make fetch happen. She's trying to make fetch a word. And it's like, JB, you're trying to make fetch happen. And it's not becoming a word. Nobody's buying it.
Well, I can understand the phone call, because if she even would have spoke with him for a few minutes, that's time well spent.
That's good ROI.
Because with J.B. Pritzker comes some fairly deep pockets. Yeah. So if anything else, we're teasing, we're making a phone call, and we're kind of seeing where we can play out here. But as you watch the national stage, she does not need the state of Illinois. We know which direction the state of Illinois is going to go. So politically, I don't know what he brings for her. But yeah, we're watching something take place here the last 2 weeks that I never would have thought that we're going to be watching. So.
Yeah. So I think if Harris wins, he's going to D.C.
I do.
And if Trump wins, I don't think he's running again in 26, as he wants to run for president in 28. And I think if I'm him, my calculus would be in 26, I can say in a Democrat primary, I passed this whole wish list of Democrat agendas. I got free health care for immigrants. I got 9-month abortion. I did the whole progressive agenda. And then he's done, and he can kind of go sprinkle money around and make friends, and he doesn't have us taking shots at him. For a normal person, they kind of got to stay governor to be relevant. But for him, he can spend $200 million a year on whatever his liberal agenda items are and just kind of become beloved by them.
Well, Travis, I think, as you can remember back in the early spring when he gave his budget address, he sat in the chambers. We had a front row seat to it. He was not speaking to the people of Illinois. He was speaking to the other 49 states when he made some of them choices that he had made. That he wasn't. He didn't have the state of Illinois in front of mind for him. He was doing a political ad for the other 49 states. So.
Well, and I think so many people in Illinois see that disconnect with him. I'm reside in Decatur. He has taken multiple trips to Decatur. It's a very Democratic heavy city and sort of industries around us. And nobody ever gets any warning that he's coming unless you're in that club, which I'm not in. I will say not having a Democratic opponent.
Does he know you went to Duke?
I'm not sure. I wrote him a letter
when he
once.
listens to this, he will. He'll know then, Travis.
I wrote him a letter once indicating such because he actually spent some time there.
Oh, really?
We
have
some
classmates.
Yeah, well, I don't know about all that, but my point being that he does have a very elitist talk, and I think that what we're watching happen in the Democratic Party from the top of the ticket down is a very elitist mentality. When we talk about the threat to democracy that many are worried about right now in this country, I mean, her being the Democratic nominee with the flip of a switch is very anti-democratic. I mean, they just eliminated the voice of, every voter that came out. Although there wasn't really a choice. Joe Biden was the nominee also. I tried to have a discussion with someone about the Republicans, at least in the primary, had a choice. They didn't feel the same because Donald Trump didn't show up to the debates. So they didn't feel like it was a true choice.
I think it's especially rich among Illinois Democrats because look at our gerrymandering. Oh, you love democracy? You want to give people the power to vote? Well, then explain to me why Illinois is a 55-45 RD state and Republicans have a third of the control of the House, a third of the control of the Senate, and 16% of our U.S. Congress seats. That's democracy. Please. And I know Republicans are guilty of it too, right? I mean, if you got power, you use it. I know Texas, Tennessee, they take advantage of it. So it's not like we're, not guilty nationally, but, from, Illinois Democrat, you look at our map and then you say, oh, I'm concerned about democracy. Well, you had a chance to do something about it and you went the opposite way.
Well, the one thing that the three of us and her have in common is we all received the same amount of electoral votes when we ran for president. We all received this. Zero.
Yeah.
So she was selected and not elected, but then...
You don't think anybody wrote in Jason Bunting for Democrat president?
Wrong JB. We've been down this road.
JB, yes, but not this one.
Yeah, so we've got the silver spoon JB in our governor, and we got the wooden spoon JB in rural Illinois.
Well, we got the JB that wears cowboy boots in the state capitol.
Absolutely.
I think this would be... Now. They look great, man. There's a couple members, maybe a half dozen, that wear their boots. And this would be a better place if we had more legislators that wore boots.
Maybe I could wear my fins.
Yeah.
My marine biology fins.
Yes.
We could have like a wear your shoes to work day.
Yeah, wear your work shoes to work day.
I will promise to clean them every time you see me on the floor with them on. Well,
do you have a spare pair in the truck?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
A cowboy's
your show
got
boots versus your work boots.
Yeah.
I have a few pair of boots.
Yeah. Regan, one thing I wanted to ask you about. So 2022, you had a really tough race. You ran for United States Congress, gave him hell, but came up a little short. So tough general. And then now you flash forward to 2024. again, tough race, gave him hell, came out on top this time, but it was a primary. So just kind of the differences about running, those two different races, having a very different situation, and maybe what you learned from the first one that helped you be successful in the second one.
Sure. I credit most of my success in the second one to, the very steep climb in education into politics in the first run. Like I said, I didn't plan politics as a career. In the Illinois 13, due to gerrymandering, Rodney Davis was mapped in against Mary Miller, leaving the 13th congressional district open. And, I just thought, I'm frustrated. 2022, we'd had 2 years of Joe Biden at the top of leadership, and just watching that administration falter. And I think it's just been a continual decline. But I surrounded myself with good, smart people. I'd never knocked a door. I think I'd probably never written a political check, to other candidates.
What got you so engaged? Was there a moment? Was it like men and women's restrooms, or you just said was it COVID? I mean, was there just a day you woke up and you were like? I think
it was COVID. We were all home with a lot of time on our hands and to think about. And actually, I had 2 girls in public school, and my pretty conservative district, like everyone, went home in April of 2020, and then we went back the next year, and we wore masks, and I tolerated it. It broke my heart every day, quite honestly. But that summer, before the 3rd year back, we were going to be mask optional, and then the governor came out with his mandate when several school districts decided they were going to be optional, and apparently that wasn't working in his favor. So I attended a school board meeting. I showed up and I made public comment just like everyone else. Back to that biology degree, I knew how to read the science. I mean, I could read the health department reports, and I knew that our children were not the most vulnerable group. And I had already seen how much damage wearing the masks was doing to our kids. I could see it in my own, in my own home too. And so I joined Tom DeVore's lawsuit against the governor and the Department of Health and the Board of Education and all the things. Not after exhausting all my own efforts, even at the local level. I mean, I wrote certified letters. I tried to do the democratic process, if you will, but just kept running into roadblocks. So really for me, it was watching the will of the people be denied, just on a very small scale. But I mean, if I look back to that board meeting, it was probably about 20 people spoke. 3 were for mandatory masks, and I think the majority of those 3 had immunocompromised kids. So I applauded them for showing up and speaking their voice. And the rest of us were optional. And then our school board voted 6-1 mandatory, and I was like, damn it. This isn't how this is supposed to work.
When was that, before the governor made them? Or was it because the governor made them?
It was because the government made them, and they felt, like they were backed into a corner.
Yeah.
And I think nobody envied that position. But, when I ran for Congress, I was like, we need people that are bold and brave. Yeah. And I did say to my school board, I will accept the outcome because it's going to go to court. And, I've taken it as far as I can. And me and 800 other parents from across the state, I think, thought, this is the right way to go about it. And so it was a really sweet win. But honestly, I mean, we defeated the governor and the Board of Health and the Board of Education. And it's because we were on the right side. And I just thought, people have a lot of power. And nothing is going to change until we empower them to use it and to use their voice and to speak up. And I just felt like I was a regular person, but, running for Congress, I mean, not anybody can do it. I'd like to think, although I think I watched someone out in Pennsylvania, win a primary with like $3,000, and maybe it was a trucker or something.
Yeah, I forgot about that. It was a trucker. It was.
So it's possible.
Yeah.
But not in Illinois.
Yeah.
Per se. And just, to be able to, have the belief that politics is mostly about relationships, and so knowing I had to really go tell my story, talk about why I wanted to do it, raise some money, but really relied heavily on policy people and kind of people that had worked in politics before. And, I won a 4-way primary. And so that was the first step. And then to take on, the Democrat and the general, you just, you learn so much, and it's like a little operation.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, you've got your team. We actually called ourselves the Mafia because it was like, if you got frustrated or you just had to keep it close because I think I probably had I could count on one hand the number of terrible days I had running for U.S. Congress, and they were all as a result of things I couldn't control.
Yeah.
You know, you get interviewed by a liberal reporter, because I was very transparent. I didn't deny any interviews ever. And I thought, well, you know, people are going to hear me. I'm going to say what I believe. And something I said got misconstrued and snipped out, and it was on a presser within like 48 hours, I swear. And I was so upset. And I remember talking to my comms director, Whitney Barnes. Do you know Whitney Barnes?
Yeah, I do.
She worked for the Senate
Yeah.
Republicans.
Okay.
And in
I know the
comms.
name. Yeah.
And she had come and worked for me, and I was just losing my mind. I was so angry. And she's like, well, this is what happens. And I said, no. I went and I listened back to the interview, and that's not what I said. And I want you to call him, and I want you to issue a retraction. It was Jim Leach. Any of you been on his show? No. It was in my district. And she's like, well, I'm not really sure that's going to happen. I said, well, I'm going to ask because I know I'm right about it. And sure enough, he did. He retracted it, but
the damage
horse was out of the barn,
for sure.
But so you learn. You can only control what you can control, and I think that all the things I learned, I was so disappointed. I mean, I cried when I lost. I really believed in myself.
Well, sure.
Despite the numbers and despite
you leave it
all
all on the field,
you do.
and
you do.
and it's not like it's if you lose 55-45. You get 45% of the control, I mean, it's
Zero.
either all or nothing.
Yeah, it's
and you put so much out there for just to, if it was like I don't know, I'm not a golfer, but like a golf tournament, you come in second, you get
prize money still.
a buttload of prize money. For this, it's just so
Well, you go home.
You're not a golfer?
I'm good for about 5 rounds a summer. People think I'm one. I think it's the glasses.
Or the
It could
tan.
Yeah,
The
or the
tan.
tan.
Or the outfit?
Yeah.
I would have.
Wearing a golf quarter.
I would have figured a golfer. I really
Yeah,
would.
and what makes it worse is my uncle developed the kind of the golf course in Peoria. It's called Weaver Ridge.
Sure.
So people
that's right.
say, you're not a golfer, your family owns a golf course. I said, well, my dad's brother developed a golf course. It's not like I get free rounds all the time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
But all that to say, I learned so much, and
Yeah.
then to turn around and put it in a state race. I mean, I was like over prepared.
Yeah.
At that point.
Right.
So,
You were on 10. You were ready to roll.
I
Yeah.
built a good team, and we worked really hard. I
Yeah.
mean, that at the end of the day, that's what it takes.
Yeah,
And,
and I'm sure you had a lot of negative stuff against you, and that's so hard. In my race, every other day in the mailbox, Travis Weaver, and it was Chicago liberal elitist. Travis Weaver is a Chicago liberal elitist. Travis Weaver comes from a corrupt political family. And it was just so painful every single day. My friends and family and people that I care about and people that I don't know are getting this wrong opinion about me. But it really lets you find out what you're made out of.
Yeah. And I think that you can dispel people. I mean, when I say we worked really hard, I just went out and met more people. Just made me take my own true and honest self and go and have conversations and introduce myself. And, people would be like, oh, I didn't really know that about you. Or, because they will just read what comes in their mailbox or what flashes across the TV screen. And you think, gosh, I'm so much more than that, And so then I just took it on as my responsibility to go out. So that's where the hard work came in. And, I think I'll keep that same attitude, now being able to serve is just, we talked about trying to find that common ground or be bipartisan, I'd rather not talk about politics if we're going to have to make friends.
Zig Ziglar says, when your outlook is challenged, your uplook is clear. And one thing I'll say about my race, I was closer to God at that time than I've ever been. It's something I always strive to get back to because, man, when you are on your knees begging for help, guidance, mercy, I think there's times he really puts you down and kicks you in the teeth and says, are you dependent on me or not? And, unfortunately, I think you kind of got to be in that situation where you're really challenged in life to find out what you're made of and to really have to depend on him. And a lot of times my prayer is, God, please let me get there with blue skies. Please don't give me gray skies to get me back there. Please let me do it with blue skies.
Not Tar Heel blue.
Yeah, right. Yeah, definitely not Duke
Here
blue.
we go. Now we're doubling down.
Where did I start here?
Now we're doubling down.
Okay, so one thing I want to ask you, both of you have kids, and in this endeavor that we're on here in politics, what are some things that you hope that your kids learn or look up to you and really have takeaways, or do you have sort of lessons that you hope that they're watching and learning and pulling from?
Yeah. So, I guess
because they probably don't have a clue really what you do.
Well, I mean, so when we had made the decision back in January of 23 that I was going to seek the appointment for the 106th, it was a long, heartfelt conversation with T and myself, my wife Tasha and I. And then we brought in some close friends and some family, and we had the conversation. Well, then we sat down with what would have been a sophomore, a seventh grader, and a fourth grader. The sophomore was concerned. The seventh grader was elated because she was going to hopefully know somebody famous. And the fourth grader really didn't care.
Being you?
Yeah, didn't really care.
Yeah.
So, but I would say the thing that I've learned since then is we live in a fishbowl.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody is always constant eyesight, not on me, but on my family, on my kids, on my wife. That's something that you can't teach them. You can't protect them from it. You always have to tell them that they have to be at their best of behavior because they're not only representing themselves, but they're representing their family, and that's the hardest part for them. I think they enjoy it. I think they like the fact that I'm gone. Tasha says life runs
Good
a lot.
cop, bad cop.
Yeah, Tasha says life runs smoother in Livingston County when I am in Sangamon County.
Oh, boy.
I just come home and screw things up. But I think we've all learned through this that we've got to pay close attention to how we act and how we treat people. But yeah, they're finally warming up to it. It's the late night phone calls, it's the early morning phone calls that get difficult when we're in Springfield, but I think we've become a closer family because of it, because we really do enjoy the time that we're together. But Isabella, my oldest, going to be a senior this year, she will be the first one to tell me that if I'm at an event, a sporting event, or a theater or circus for Samantha, that I may be there, but I'm not 100% there because people always want a piece of your time or about 15 seconds to have a conversation with you. But we're learning. We are building the plane as we're flying it, and we're enjoying every bit of it.
Yeah, I think that they are always watching. And I think that's good for us as parents, no matter what, whether you're working at it politically or you're in your job or you're just, talking to your neighbor. They're always watching our exchanges. And so I hope that I'm setting a good example for them in that way, and that I really value my relationships with people. It's kind of funny. Sometimes my oldest will say, "We don't have to talk about politics all the time, Mom." Although he's the most conservative, probably, of my three. The oldest is a boy, and he's a sophomore, going to be in college. And it's interesting to watch sort of, and I hate to just call it like it is, but the indoctrination of our young people between 19, 17, and 14. They've all been through public school, and so just kind of their perspectives. My youngest one will come home and make posters about climate change or talk about book banning and things like that. And so I feel like I have a responsibility to her to try and find that balance. My middle one, when I ran for Congress last time, it was, Debbie Downer all the time until we filmed a commercial. And then she perked up, and she'd probably hate me for saying that. But, they just have their different lanes, if you will. And so I think in our family unit, my husband has been my hero on this journey because he does hold down the fort a lot. While he carries a full-time job, that includes a lot of travel also. So I'm thankful that I don't have little ones. Teenagers can definitely man up and take some of their own responsibilities for, dinner or watching each other. Or, we also have 2 dogs at home too. So there's life. But, I think that they are learning about the political process, which I think is so important. I want them to be engaged. I want everyone I talk to be engaged. So while they say we don't always have to talk about politics, even if we're talking about, how much groceries cost, we can just have that moment together and understand that there's consequences for bad policy that is happening, especially here in Illinois. So I love when I am home. It's hard for me to turn it off, just thinking about the news cycle 24/7 or just keeping up on things. But we do really enjoy kind of time away, and that's that much more important. I assume once I get to Springfield, it will become even more valuable.
Yeah, it's so good to talk to, especially the young ones, about policy. And I always say that I think politics is about two things, policy and character. And we talk a lot about policy. I mean, that's kind of what you campaign on, is what's your policy going to be? What's your platform? What's your policy? And that's important. It's probably the more important one. But I think character matters a lot too, especially being in the super minority. When they got, for the listeners, it takes 60 votes to pass a bill. They got 78 members. We got 40. Realistically, are we going to stop a lot of bills that they really want to pass? Probably not. But you can go into a sixth grade classroom and talk to a civics class, and you can have pages down to the Capitol, and you can hold yourself well when you're getting interviewed, and you can put out things that are educational on your Facebook page. There's all these things that you can do that make people, I think, maybe proud of their state legislator, but also want to be more like them. Mm-hmm. And I think in Illinois, we've been, proud to be Illinoisans in spite of our politicians. And I think that we can start to be proud of who we are because of our elected leaders. And I think that you do have to hold yourself to a higher standard. And to Regan's point, they are always freaking watching, man. And their little brains are sponges. And you think that they're not listening, but they are listening. And they're listening right when you think that they're not, or maybe when you don't want them to.
Well, sometimes I get good feedback from my 14-year-old, and I'm like, yes, you need to say that back, and I need to play it for the 40-year-olds. Because
Absolutely.
She's just she picks up what I'm laying down most of the time.
That's good.
But I think it's funny that you say you'll be a celebrity, and I think of people I've met who are like, oh, I have pictures with the governor, or you're a congressman or woman, or your state representatives, and you are you are someone important to them, and I hope that we can continue to be present, because we remap every 10 years, so sometimes your elected officials change, but the out of reach part is really what sort of frustrates me the most. I want people to know I'm accessible. Yeah. If you ever want to contact me or have a question, I can only do as good a job as you help me do.
Sure.
I need to know what your issues are, or what you're for, or what you're against. Obviously, the vote will be mine, and so I want to be well informed. I always say that those in power are most afraid of an informed electorate. So, we need them to know what's going on in our state and why people are voting for things, and really return the power to the people. And that starts a lot with our young people, just knowing who we are, what we actually do, how we can make differences or change, and that we'd love to show them the way.
And a lot of times kids ask the best questions. The most I've ever gotten grilled is I went to Peoria Academy, which is a private school that's not even in my district. They invited me to come, and I was like, I try to say yes. And I also, this is a side, but I think about my boundary as really a gray line.
Oh, sure.
If I have a county, I don't partially support my sheriff. I don't partially support my county board. I fully do. So I got one precinct in Fulton County, and I fully support the county. And I'm like, Noreen Hammond has one Peoria County precinct, and I have one Fulton County precinct, and I'm like, maybe we could have swapped these. And then but it's been such a blessing, because now there's all these people that I would have never gotten to know, except for now I treat them like I treat the rest of my counties. So anyway, I'm at this school, and there's 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and usually the questions are like, what made you want to get into politics? Who was your favorite president? And these kids are like, gay rights, Palestine, abortion. They're just like firing fastballs at me. And I kind of had to remind myself, I'm so proud of these kids that they're actually engaged in asking these questions. And I'm also trying to kind of tiptoe around, because if I was a parent, I wouldn't want my kid coming home being like, well, Travis Weaver told me that this is the right answer and this is the wrong answer. So I'm really trying to be objective and give the both sides of the question. And it's like I'm trying not to look at my watch, because I'm like, these kids are just freaking peppering me. But I was so proud of them. And kind of kids don't know what's a good question or a bad question. They don't know how to maybe ask it in an eloquent way. They just know this topic, and so they just fire it right at you. And sometimes
it's like,
it was great. I was ready to be done.
Yeah.
But it was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and I think one of the best things that we can offer are the pages for the day. Get that class down, get that school down, get that individual down. get them on the chamber floors, have them ask the questions, and have them just kind of be totally engaged in government. And that's what we need. And if there's any way that we can educate and inform them at a young age to get involved off the bat,
Yeah.
I mean, the state will strengthen. Absolutely.
I also think it's so important to instill in them a healthy level of skepticism, especially with media. So my sister, with her, she's got 4 kids, but with her 9 and 7-year-old, she teaches them whenever they hear something to treat it like food. We put it into our mouths. We'll kind of chew it up. We'll decide, do we like that taste, or does that taste kind of expired? Do we spit it out, or do we swallow it? And so they'll watch the news together, and she'll hit the pause button, and she'll say, okay, now we just heard this. Does that sound interesting? Does that sound like different from what mommy and daddy have taught you? Or what do you think about that? And they'll kind of say, no, I think that's okay. Or no, that I didn't really like that. I'm going to spit it out. And I think as we could take that lesson so well as adults, do you just take everything wholesale as it's sold to you? Or do you really say, I think I'm not going to believe that, and I'm able to do my own research?
I'm going to pay attention to you in the breakfast tomorrow when you're chewing up your food to see.
Yeah, you'd be like,
He only picks what he likes on his plate.
that's hot sauce, and he just took a spoonful of it like it was soup. Don't listen to this guy.
Yeah. So, not to change the subject again, I'm sorry, but as you said before, we are the super minority down in Springfield. So, wins are few and far between in Springfield, but the proudest part of my job as state rep is when we can help that constituent out. It's all about constituent services for the parts of 7 counties that I represent. So my chief of staff called on Friday afternoon, absolutely elated. We've been working with this constituent since December with the Secretary of State. We have finally gotten a decision. We're able to move forward with this constituent on what she was wanting done, and it's a beautiful thing. And just to hear her voice over the phone on how excited she was that we finally got this problem for this constituent rectified, it was a great thing. And that's what this job's all about. You've got to take the small wins. That was a small win for us on Friday afternoon, which is going to have Kyra excited to come to work tomorrow morning. So it's just
awesome.
Yeah, it's just, I'm not a golfer either, Travis, but they always say you're always one shot away from loving the game again. So
I am a golfer, so if you ever need someone to play in a
Did you play for Duke?
No.
Okay.
Bless you for asking, but no, I didn't. I grew up playing junior golf.
Oh, yeah?
And so you kind of learn the swing mechanics and, it's sort of like riding a bike, you don't forget. But I've got two out of my 3 that have at least picked up the club and will go out and play. My middle one uses my clubs, and she made a true birdie on one of the holes, and she was like, "Oh, this isn't so bad." And then
one stroke
then
away.
The next tee box she whiffed to. And I'm like, "Well, welcome. It'll humble you."
Yes.
So I am so bad at golf. They have a groundskeeper that follows me to fix everything as I'm coming through. So yeah, I'm pretty bad.
So
do either of you have a golf outing as a fundraiser?
No.
I do.
Oh, you
Do you?
do. Is there one coming up?
Yeah, September 6th at the Dwight Country Club. I'll send all the information to you.
Oh, perfect.
I'll see you here.
Do you
for the next
have a
few days.
website people can go to sign up for it?
Absolutely. Bunting, jrbforillinois.com.
There you go. Sign up, folks.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely.
Come have some fun.
Or
What's
follow
the
us on
date?
Facebook, September 6th.
Good.
Friday, September 6th.
Good.
Friday morning, noon.
So yeah, we just make a big day of it. Yeah. So I think it's shotgun start at 10 a.m.
Oh, that's much better. The 8 a.m.s are tough.
Yeah.
I get it because it's not quite hot yet, but man, if you got to drive somewhere to get there and then you got to warm up, and oh boy.
Oh, there's warming up in golf. you just don't go to the first
Well,
tee
I mean, when I can fit in going to play with my ladies' league, which is at 8:30, I literally come like screaming into the parking lot and jam my feet into my shoes and show up. So I don't usually, but if I'm playing in public, I try at least to get loose. How about that?
Gotcha.
So speaking of sports, maybe we end on a positive note here. Anybody been watching the Olympics? Any sports you've been enjoying or fun moments?
I have loved the horse jumping. Yes, I rode horses when I was younger.
I watched. I guess there's one guy who won 4 years ago with one horse, and now he won with a different horse. The horse's name was Chipmunk. This is all kind of coming back to me. And I watched it for like 5 minutes, and I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, the horses were jumping so high.
Oh, Yeah, and then the cross-country course was really beautiful over there, too, which was kind of fun. So I've enjoyed that. I kind of like hold my breath. I used to do jumping, too, so it's like I feel like you can
So the only thing I've seen with the horse thing is Snoop Dogg all dressed up.
I was going to say, yeah.
That's
crip walking, cuz.
He and Martha. He has really embraced this role,
man.
let me tell you.
Snoop is the United States Olympic diplomat.
It has been awesome watching it. If I stay up late enough to watch the breakdown of that day's events in the Olympics, he is just absolutely awesome, and I am loving it. I mean, I am gut laughing laying in bed watching it. It is so funny.
It's been good. I've tried to catch, a little bit every day, and then I think I set my record for whatever's the prime time, like 7 to 10. I think we were at a family lunch and we watched Katie Ledecky was doing the 1500 which is already almost like 15 minutes. So I think we were walking out and then they played the whole race again during prime time. And I'm thinking, oh man.
Yeah. Once was enough.
But I think it was her record-breaking medal.
Gold. Yeah. It's so funny that I would never watch any of these sports, and then they put them in the Olympics, and I'm like so engaged. But the one that I wish that they did show outside of the Olympics is beach volleyball. These people fascinate me.
You were watching when we came into the hotel lobby.
I was.
He's just standing in front of the lobby.
I'm glued to it because they'll set it and they'll just spike it so hard, and then they just jump out of nowhere with a fist and just stop it. And I'm like, I think it's absolutely fascinating how talented they are.
Yes. My comment was I could never play that because I can't have sand sticking to my body.
Yeah.
In every sport you watch, they make it look so incredibly easy, and then you're like, it's
they have
amazing.
worked so hard. I mean, that's been always is my favorite about the Olympics is how hard they've worked and trained and kind of get to this pinnacle moment. Although there have been many athletes that are multiple years, and that's always a great story too. They've kind of stuck with it and stayed at the top of their game. But
I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, but the synchronized diving was maybe my favorite kind of watching.
Oh man, it mesmerizes me.
It is crazy how good they are.
There were a pair from Illinois, right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
The girls. Okay, if I'm wrong, you'll have to edit this out. But I'm pretty sure they're
You
from
heard it
Illinois.
here first, Illinois.
I bombed Illinois trivia earlier today, and now if there's synchronized divers from Illinois that I don't know about, I feel really, really bad. I feel really bad.
The other thing about the Olympics is it's obscure sports, but it's also so touching. I mean, you see these people and they win, and then they get emotional, and then you see their family embracing up. And there's times, man, I'm like somebody chopping onions in the next room because
I love it when they play the national anthem. I mean, I attended the RNC in Milwaukee for all 5 days, and I tell you, every day, I mean, we said the pledge and we sang the anthem before the convention, and I mean, it was just so powerful. I probably will need waterproof mascara the day I get sworn in or whatever when we stand up there and say the pledge, because you think about that, what you are representing, Olympians as well as elected officials too. But it's just, the words really ring true when you think, this is my responsibility now, and this is a country that I will be working for and its people. So I like that part too.
Yeah.
Well, certainly.
Awesome. Well, guys, I know it's late. I appreciate you hanging out. It's been such a pleasure. Jason Regan, I love working with you, man. I can't wait to welcome you into Springfield in January. Let's go get it. Let's get the state fixed. Appreciate it, guys.
Absolutely.
All right,
Thanks, Travis.
Thanks for coming on.
I'm Travis Weaver, and you're listening to the Good People Project.